So according to a new poll, 86 of Americans now agree that Joe Biden is too old for a second term. And the other 14% say he's too old for last rites. I know, that was harsh. Now, you know you're in trouble when the percent of Americans who say you're too old is actually higher than your age. We can't get 86% of people to oppose murder. But think about it, 86%. Americans are finally united.
For 3 years, Joe Biden's been America's emperor. And the Democratic machine and the press have been his swindlers, lying and convincing him that he looked fantastic. But last week, the emperor was caught with no clothes. After the Her report exposed the president as being painfully slow, doddering old man with diminished faculties, Washington's secret was out. Although the rest of the country has known it for years. 86% of Americans say Biden's too old to serve another term. The remaining 14% are Biden family members. It's a relief for everyone. No more pretending.
Saving Joe Biden. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, after last week's spectacular embarrassment for the country and the presidency with Joe Biden's compromised mental state, exposed both by the special prosecutor and in real time, they knew that they needed to dramatically redirect the narrative. And like magic, we're suddenly seeing signs that the Biden White House has been taken over by the Biden campaign. Now, given how poorly Biden's doing, the angle imagines that the woman behind the curtain, Dr. Jill, is demanding that people do a better job for her husband, which means rotating out the farm team for the bigger hitters with better messaging.
Boy, an elderly man with poor memory, that's not what you would pick as your commander-in-chief, especially when you look at what's going on around the world. Look, he needs to resign or be removed. The Democrats, what they ought to do is go through a real primary process to find somebody better, because Joe can't do the job. And by the way, his policies are horrible.
You know, he's become a mean, angry old man. But we put up the poll that 86% of Americans believe that Joe Biden has some failing mental acuity. He's too old to serve another term.
So tonight, after Joe Biden's latest string of bizarre gaffes, highlighting problems with his age and memory, well, Democrats and the left, they are waking up to what we have been telling you on this program for years now, and that is the White House has a massive problem with Joe Biden. It's an age problem, and it's bad, and it's now obvious that Joe Biden is not fit to serve as your president. Last night, while exiting Marine One, well, here we go again. Biden appeared to hit his head. This comes as a new ABC poll shows that a staggering, look at this, nearly 9 in 10 Americans, 86% of you, the American people, think, rightly so in my view, that Biden is too old to serve another term in the White House. That'd be 5 more years. Now, with the country so divided, when was the last time 86% of Americans agreed on anything? Most people can't agree on the time of day. And instead of worrying about her husband's mental health, well, Jill Biden is doubling down with the excuses. In last week's damning special counsel report with Robert Hur noted that Biden couldn't even remember within several years. This is sad. This is tragic. When his son Beau died.
What we saw last week, Todd, as far as the president is concerned, when he can't remember the name of Hamas, who carried out the worst, most horrific attacks on Jews we've seen since the Holocaust. All right, can't remember the name of Hamas. Then we saw him talk about Francois Mitterrand and the French president, as far as he had a conversation with him recently. Mitterrand died when Patrick Mahomes was 1 year old, right, in 1996. Then talked about how he had, obviously, a conversation with Helmut Kohl, the late German chancellor who died many years ago, said he talked to him about January 6th. And then he had that press conference, which obviously, Todd, what we saw there was a president in prime time melting down in terms of his memory when he confused the president of Mexico with the president of Egypt. Overall, what we have now is even the New York Times saying that it's time for Joe Biden to step aside and for somebody else to take the mantle at this point. Here's the problem for the president and his handlers at this point. If you put Joe Biden out there, Todd, then you have cleanups on aisles 5, 17, 22, and 29. In other words, he's going to screw up something in terms of his memory.
An elderly man with a poor memory and one who willfully retained and disclosed classified documents. That is how Special Counsel Robert Hur described the current president of the United States in his report on the Biden classified documents investigation. He, the president, did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. If it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president? And forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began. In 2009, as still vice president? He did not remember, even within several years, when his son Beau died. And that's dangerous. And on top of that, he's turned America into a laughingstock.
Joe Biden's like that grandpa that you love, that you believe in, you owe a lot, but you start to wonder, would you give this grandpa a high-stress job for 6 more years, or would you want something else for him?